So I was gonna play some Ghost of Tsushima Legends today because I'm addicted to that game right now, but the PlayStation Network ended up being down, so I couldn't even connect to a game, and I really didn't feel like playing with randoms anyways. So to get my Ghost of Tsushima fix for the day, I decided, you know what, let's try out the New Game Plus. That was also added with the Legends update. So I hopped into my new game, started up New Game Plus, and jumped right into the game. A few things to mention about it is it's actually what everyone wanted. Now, New Game Plus, you keep everything that you had as it was advertised, all your cosmetics, all your abilities, all your upgrades, everything. And that's generally to be expected, but they did a bit more with it. So the first thing that they did was they added an entire new level of upgrade to every piece of armor and every weapon besides the Tanto, which is how you assassinate people, to increase damage, increase other stats of the armors or weapons, with the exception of, I think, the broken armor and one other one that cannot be upgraded. But everything else can be, including like the fundoshi, which is basically just Jin in a towel, and the Mongol armor even. So that's the first thing that they added, which is kind of ridiculous, but also really cool, because the first thing I wanted to do when I got into the DLC was I wanted to try to find, or not in the DLC, but the New Game Plus, was I wanted to try to find some enemies and see, is the combat actually that much harder? Because what I was expecting was for the enemies at the beginning of the game to be not quite as hard as the enemies were at the end of the game on New Game. And what I found was the health hasn't really changed much, if at all, but the damage is ridiculous. I had no damage reduction or an increased health because I was running ghost armor with no health or damage reduction charms, and I was getting hit 3 times, and then I was down to that last little sliver of health you have before you go down. It was a lot of... They do a lot of damage. They've been increased quite a bit. Something else that's happened because of New Game Plus is leaders are more prevalent, especially in the early areas. They're basically everywhere. They're not in every patrolling Mongol patrol, but they are in all the camps and everything, which even though they weren't before, as well as there are some armored Mongols still in the early areas of the game, which is something that was different from before. That's really all that's happened, changed the enemies. Something else that they've added is they've added a way for charms to be put on specific pieces of armor. So I don't use armor for the stats. I use it for how cool it looks. But you can, if you want to have armor set up for stats specifically, or specific things, you can have armor with specific charm setups dedicated for something. So I actually set one up though while I was playing today, and I set it up with the Sakai clan armor for dueling, so I could have increased health and increased damage. But then I just put a bunch of damage charms on my on that set, and I went into a duel to test it, and I was doing quite a bit more damage than I would be with the ghost armor. It's a nice new feature that they added that no one really asked for, but it's nice. It's nice to have. That's really all they did though for New Game Plus, at least for the things having to do with your character. The last thing they added though was a new merchant in New Game Plus. They added a new merchant called Baku the Voiceless. And now what Baku sells is he sells quite a few things. He sells 5 different tabs. The first thing he sells is 2 new armor sets. The first one is called the Deadly Rivals attire, which is the Ryozu armor set from the game. And this has increased to damage, health, and increased to ghost weapon damage. And then the other one he has is the armor of the Archery Master's attire. And this is the armor that Sensei Ishikawa wears in the game. This has increased knocking and reload speed, concentration time, and headshots restore 50% of concentration meter. They're both decent. If you play with that type of style, then they're good for you if you care about the stats. But they look pretty cool, and they don't have any dyes on them either. So if you were hoping to maybe dye them, that isn't possible, unfortunately. The next thing he ends up selling, the next thing Baku sells is he sells armor dyes, ironically, for I think all the other armor sets in the game. And these aren't just your normal dyes that are just like a new color, but they are essentially designs for most of them. I personally love the Ronin and Kensei and Tadayori armor. All of them are really cool looking. Sakai clan armor has some cool ones. The ghost armor, it's not my cup of tea, but if you like it, it's okay. It kind of looks like the transcendent ghost armor, but mixed with the white ghost armor, along with much more. These are really, really cool armor sets, not armor sets, armor dyes, that honestly I was hoping for some actually really cool designs instead of just changing colors of the armor, and I'm glad I got that. I'm glad I got what I wanted. The next thing he sells is charms, actually. The first charm he sells is a minor charm, and it's completely cosmetic. It just says, you like blood? Here's a lot more. And every time you hit an enemy, just so much blood everywhere. It replaces one of your minor charm slots, but I think it's worth it, because it's pretty funny to see. The next three are the opposite of charms. They're curses. If they also take up charms, minor charm slots, which it means that you're going to have one less charm slot and the game's going to be harder. Like, for example, you die in one hit and Iron Will, meaning getting back up, doesn't work. You can't their enemies don't drop any resources or ammo or anything. And then everything that takes the resolve takes double the resolve. It's some interesting ways of making the game harder, other than playing on the hardest difficulty. And if you want that extra challenge, go for it. I don't think that's very fun to have to set those restrictions on yourself. They're cool if you want them, but you don't have to use them. There's some other minor charms. The only one I even remember besides them is that you can tame Mongol dogs and have them as your allies, which is a pretty cool charm to have. But most of them, they're unique, but they're nothing too crazy. But then there's also three major charms that is sold. The first one is whenever you get hit, your ghost stance meter only goes down by 1, and when in ghost stance, you can kill 4 instead of 3 people. It's a small upgrade, but it's still pretty good. The next one is that whenever you use Way of the Flame, it has increased duration and increased damage, and that's alright. It's nothing too great. And then the last major charm he sells is a charm that improves the Heavenly Strike ability. It gives a chance for lightning to strike a nearby enemy whenever you use it, which is something that you probably should just buy and use just to see it happen. I think it's cool. I don't think it's good. I think it's pretty cool. But that's pretty much all the charms that he gives you. The fourth thing he sells are hats. These are a few of them I think are from the Legends DLC. Nothing like super cool like these Cinders ones. But there are a couple one, like a marsh one, like basically a straw hat covered in like moss and stuff. But most of them are just reskins of reskins or recolors of other straw hats that are in the base game. Like there's the Betrayer's hat, and there's two different reskins of this one, which is just the hat of Ryuzo that you get at the end of Act 2. And then the fifth one that it sells is masks. These are mostly like wolf masks, but there's also other masks for Like there's some other mask reskins. There's even a monkey mask reskin, a ghost mask reskin, samurai mask reskin. It's a lot. The ghost mask reskin I actually think works better with the transcendent ghost recolor for the ghost armor, which is the one that you get for platinuming the game. I personally don't like that armor color, but if you do, this mask works a lot better than the actual mask that you get for wearing that color. But yeah, that's about it for the things added in New Game Plus. It's been quite a bit of fun in playing it and trying it out again. Good to go back to the story after not playing it for a few months and only playing the Legends mode. Yeah, I recommend trying it, especially if you are seeing this and the PlayStation Network is still down. Yeah, go try it out. It's really fun. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed.